of leadership matters.
As on April 2nd, we learned of the passing of His Excellency Vance Amory. As a result, we have dedicated this program to his memory, to reflect on his work, his contributions, and also to pay honor to a great man. The Prime Minister has dedicated the program to allow persons in the Federation and the diaspora to pay tribute to Ambassador Amory, and an invitation was given to persons to send in messages and songs and any other means of paying tribute to him prior to the show. And we have been overwhelmed by the response. We know that His Excellency Vance Amory was well loved for the contribution he made to St. Kitts and Nevis. We're going to begin the program, as we usually would, with an opening presentation by the Prime Minister, following which we will have a documentary which was produced by ZIZ about Mr. Amory, Ambassador Amory, and then we're going to go straight to the phone lines. Yes, we don't have any guests this evening. We're going to just allow you to use this platform to speak about your memories of Ambassador Amory and how he has touched your life and anything you need to say about the work he has done. So, without further ado, we're going to go to the Prime Minister. Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My fellow citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, tonight I have dedicated Leadership Matters to allow the people of our Federation to pay their respects to a beloved son, patriot, and leader of St. Kitts and Nevis, in His Excellency Vance Winkworth Amory. He was a loyal citizen, talented cricketer, teacher, banker, community activist, public servant, politician, premier, senior minister, and ambassador extraordinary plenipotentiary assigned in the office of the Prime Minister. It was on Saturday, April 2nd, with great sadness, that I addressed the nation on the passing of Ambassador Vance Amory. Over the past 10 days, we receive an outpouring of love and tributes for a truly great man. Tributes have come from politicians, teachers, bankers, diplomats, the clergy, as well as from supporters and opponents. A theme of service resonates: dedication to people and country, honesty and decency, level-headedness and intelligent diplomacy, strong, steady, and sober leadership. For others, what stood out were his God-fearing nature, his intelligence, his resourcefulness, and strong determination. His charming, infectious personality was evident to all. It is testament to his yeoman service as a public servant that tributes were received from across the entire hemisphere. These tributes came from prime ministers, premiers, ambassadors, and organizations like the ECCB, the OECS, CARICOM, and ALBA. Ambassador Vance Amory was widely known, widely respected, and admired. I was able to witness these qualities firsthand when he served as senior minister in our teen unity government from February 2015 until June 2020. He became an excellent friend, a reliable confidant, and mentor. His story, in my view, is one of extraordinary successes and accomplishments. We wish tonight to celebrate him, his life, his accomplishments, and his immense contribution to our nation's growth and development. He became the headmaster of the Charlestown Secondary School at the young age of 28, He became manager of the Nevis branch of the St. Kitts Nevis and Gwilla National Bank in 1981 when he was just 32. In 1983, he was appointed permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance in the Nevis Island administration. Ambassador Amory was also an accomplished cricketer, playing for Nevis, the Leeward Islands, and Combined Islands teams. He also played for cricket clubs in Barbados and the Virgin Islands. His faith in God was unshakable. He was a devout Anglican, graduating from altar boy to lay reader. Ambassador Vance Amory, with others, founded the Concerned Citizens Movement in 1987. He entered politics with a profound philosophy that there was a better way of doing things. He attracted and appreciated talent and allowed that talent to grow in ways best suited. In 5 years after its formation, the Concerned Citizens Movement, with Vance Amory as its leader, took control of the Nevis Island administration. Having just turned 43 a month earlier, he became the youngest premier on Nevis. The rest, as we would say, is history. Premier Vance Amory and the CCM would go on to serve 3 successive terms from 1992 to 2006. He was called upon again by the people of Nevis to lead the NIA in 2013. He is the longest serving premier on the island of Nevis. A better way of doing things was indeed found. His prudent fiscal policies and clear vision for expansion bore fruit. Under his premiership, the landscape and the economy of Nevis improved dramatically and permanently. In the 10 years from 1992, Nevis saw unprecedented infrastructural and housing boom. Middle-class communities such as Ramsbury, Upper Stony Grove, Marion Heights, and Prospect developed. Projects such as the Newcastle Airport expansion to becoming upgraded to an international airport, the Deepwater Port at Long Point, the Charlestown Port and waterfront upgrade and expansion. There was the asphalt plant commissioning, which built expertise and lowered the cost of road repairs. During his premiership, construction of the Samuel Hunkins Drive and the Charlestown Bypass Road were completed. This eliminated congestion and pollution in Charlestown. The list is by no means exhaustive. The end result was that the livelihoods of Nevisians improved dramatically. As a patron of the arts, he secured funding for the construction of the Nevis Performing Arts Theatre. I am advised that Steel Pan, in particular, took a huge leap forward under his administration. He promoted industry and commerce. He contributed to the development of the manufacturing sector on the island of Nevis. The industrial sites at Pinneys and Prospects were developed. Premier Amory worked tirelessly to build the financial services sector and promoted education tourism, leading to the construction of the Medical University of the Americas. During his tenure as premier, he effectively managed the transformation of the island of Nevis, leaving it in a better position to meet the challenges of the future. For my part, I will always be grateful for his contribution to the formation and growth of the Team Unity movement. His calm, level-headed approach and abiding commitment to the concept of unity help us to deliver unprecedented support to our citizens and residents on both islands. to encapsulate a life so full with accomplishments, impact and contributions in the time permitted is impossible. But surely history and the historians will document favorably the work, life and legacy of former Premier and Ambassador, His Excellency Vance Winkworth Amory. In every respect, his life was a success. As a husband, father, brother, scholar, sportsman, educator, banker, civil servant, politician, leader, and ambassador. This assessment is according to those who would have grown with him, worked with him, and felt the benefits of him being simply Vance Amory. He brought a humility and distinguished dignity to public life and the offices he held. He had time for everyone, it seemed, and he would joke and laugh wherever he engaged his people. On a personal level, over the last 7 years, the first 5 as a senior minister in my cabinet, and the latter 2 as ambassador, I can attest to his sincerity, humility, and team-building approach, and of course, his absolute trustworthiness. He left us the best example of humanitarianism and leadership. He advocated quiet diplomacy, which evidently works so much better. He was never loud or boisterous, yet he got so much accomplished. He was an empowering force for youth and women. He charted a course and he ran a tight financial ship. He was always forward-looking. As Premier and Ambassador, he would have touched many lives directly and indirectly. He was a shining example of leadership and citizenship. We should all endeavor to emulate him. May God bless his soul. I extend again my sympathies to his wife, his children, siblings, other family members, and colleagues in the Nevis Island administration, and above all, to all the people of Nevis and St. Kitts. I thank you for joining this program tonight.
Now we're going to view a documentary that was produced by ZIZ.
The passing of His Excellency Ambassador Vance Amory has left many in shock as they reflect on his life not only in politics and government, but his service to the wider community. It was just on Saturday, the 2nd of April, news broke that he passed while seeking medical attention in London, England. In 1967, Ambassador Vance Amory entered the world of work as a teacher at the Charlestown Secondary School. 3 years later, he journeyed to Barbados to pursue his bachelor's studies in economics and history at the University of the West Indies Cable campus. He began his political career in 1983 while working in the finance department of the Nevis Island administration. Vance Amory was a committed citizen and leader whose legacy of achievements should inspire future and present generations. One of his many speeches that would be remembered was in celebration of Alexander Hamilton's role in the establishment and founding of Jersey City, New Jersey.
It struck me that it has been and was reinforced that the man Alexander Hamilton, whom we are honoring and seeking to have his legacy significantly appreciated, by the people of Nevis and the people of the United States of America and the world that he was a man of sound principles. He was a man who had a clear understanding of what his role was as a human being. And I think it is important that we instill this in our children, that they must seek amidst the turmoil, amidst the distractions of what goes on around them in their cities, in their homes, in their schools or wherever, that they must have a focus and a willingness to accomplish and to utilize their God-given talents as Hamilton did.
The late Vance Wintworth Amory has never missed an opportunity to remind the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis about the importance of living an upright life and having respect at all times. He was very humble, with a captivating smile that many would remember him for. In his 2016 New Year's address, he told the citizens of Nevis that God was in the center of everything.
Let us recognize that every challenge is a foundation for opportunity. Let us be a kinder, gentler society. Let hope fill our hearts and our minds. And let us resolve to be courteous and make small but significant words such as please, thank you, you're welcome, part of our national conversation. Let us live together as one family with a shared destiny, shaping a brighter future for our country under the guidance and protection of God.
It was always a pleasant moment whenever the late Ambassador Vance Amory walked the streets of St. Kitts and Nevis, as many persons greeted him and engaged him on matters of state or just to have a light conversation. Many persons described him as very calm and friendly.
My name is Jacqueline Hendrickson, aka Rock, security officer at the ferry terminal. I know Vance Amory a long time, and he was such a pleasant man. He come down on the boat, he laugh, you cannot sit with him and talk any little thing. He never wash you off. He sit with you, he listen to you, and it's so sad that, you know, he had to end up like that. My deepest sympathy go to his colleagues, his family, his friends. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
I'm deeply saddened and heartbroken with the passing of Mr. A, who, that's the name that I call the Honorable Vance Amory. Mr. A was such a kind-hearted gentleman, smiles with everybody he knows, and even if he doesn't know them, he smiles. We had a very good relationship in terms of friendly relationship. He would call me, I would call him, just send messages to say have a good day and spiritual quotes. And I will miss that deeply, because sometimes when you're having a bad day, you see this message comes in, it brightens up your day. And I am truly saddened. I pray every day that, and ask why, which I shouldn't be asking why. But I know Mr. A is in a better place. He's out of all his sufferings and pains. And wherever he is, I know he will be resting in eternal peace. My condolences go out to the families and friends and all those who are mourning the loss of Mr. A.
I've known the Honorable Vance Amory all my adult life. I met him when I went to work in Nevis as a police officer, and we have had a very good relationship over the years. I can say he was a pleasant individual. You can very easy to speak to, and is someone who I am very honored to have met and to have known.
Jasmine Blue Thomas. Saddened to say goodbye to Vance, knowing that he comes every morning or each day to say, "Hi, Miss Blue, how are you doing?" He buys patties, bullfoot soup, whatever I have. And it saddened my heart. Condolences to the family. It's very, very painful knowing that he isn't here. Just to say hi and his smile. I'll miss him. Sleep on, my premier.
Prime Minister and leaders of government and private institutions from across the region paid tribute to the late ambassador for being a regionalist and always spoke about how countries should come together for a common goal. Prime Minister of Barbados, Amory Motley, said she had the honor of interacting with Ambassador Amory at the 33rd Intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM in Belize, where he continued to demonstrate his interest in advancing the cause of divisions within the context of a stronger regional family. In honor of his achievements throughout his political career, the CARICOM Secretary General, Carla Barnett, said she was extremely saddened by the passing of former Premier of Nevis and Senior Minister in the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. In his address, while informing the nation of the death of Ambassador Amory, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris described him as a reliable friend, mentor, and advisor.
With his invaluable partnership and support, Team Unity was established with the mandate of transcending the traditionally limiting political boundaries and tribalism that had held back the development of our federation for decades. As such, we owe it to Ambassador Amory's memory to maintain the integrity and principles of the Team Unity movement, to which he was fully committed from its inception.
The late Honorable Vance Amory served as Minister of Social Security from 2015 to 2020. One of his most impactful decisions included the implementation of the COVID-19 Relief Fund that provided financial support to insured persons whose income were affected by the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, who took over the leadership of the CCM party from Vance Amory, described him as a giant who walked amongst us for many years.
Vance Amory has led an unblemished life of service to the people of Nevis and the wider country. Whether as a sportsman in cricket, as an athlete, as a banker, as an educator, and as a politician, he has led with distinction and served the people of Nevis and the wider federation in every capacity.
Notable tributes are also delivered by the first Prime Minister and national hero, the Right Excellent and the Right Honorable Dr. Kennedy Simmons, as well as former Prime Minister and opposition leader, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas. His Excellency Ambassador Amory was a founding member of the Concerned Citizens Movement Party and served as member of the Nevis Island Assembly 1987 to 2017, member of the National Assembly 1989 to 2020, Premier of Nevis 1992 to 2006 and 2013 to 2017, and Senior Minister in the Federal Government 2015 to 2020. Before his untimely passing, he served as Ambassador in the office of the Prime Minister. In the words of many, and as we end this special tribute to Ambassador, His Excellency Vance W. Amory, as you did on the cricket field, you played a great innings, but it is now over. But your commitment to the cause of unity at home and in the region lives on.
That was quite a touching documentary produced by ZIZ, and I think it gave us quite a snapshot of just how much Mr. Ambassador Amory has touched people's lives and the contribution he made to the Federation. So just to remind you, or let you know if you're joining us for the first time, or if you're only now joining us, that this program is a special edition of Leadership Matters. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris has dedicated this evening's program to pay tribute to the Honorable, His Excellency Vance Amory. And so that will be our focus for this evening. We're going to open up the phone lines as soon as we come back from a short break. That will allow you to say a few words about Ambassador Amory. Allow me to share with you the call-in numbers so that you can prepare to participate when we open up the phone lines. The call-in numbers are 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line is 1-239-645-4500. Those numbers are listed at the bottom of the screen for your convenience. If you'd like to send a message via WhatsApp, you may do so by sending it to 661-5683. That's 661-5683. We're going to take a short break, and when we return, we want to hear from you.
Let me ask you something. Why do you think that people in the community next door got indoor bathroom facilities added onto their homes some years ago? The results of the last census provided government with a picture of their situation, and the government put a plan in place to help those persons who were in need.
This is very interesting. I think my area could do with some government projects too.
It's not just about government. Your eldest daughter is in high school and doing school-based assessments and other projects. Where do you think she gets much of the population-related data she needs from? It's the statistics department and the work they do in conducting the census and surveys.
Let us all play our part. Better data for better lives.
Welcome back to this special edition of Leadership Matters. My name is Jacqueline Bryan. I'm your host this evening, and Leadership Matters is brought to you by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. And this evening, we are paying tribute to His Excellency Vance Amory. The call-in numbers are 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line is 1-239-645-4500. If you want to contact us via WhatsApp, you may do so by sending your message or voice note to 661-5683. We also are expecting to be joined by some persons who they'll be joining us virtually, and so we'll hear from them later on. But right now, we're going to go to the phone lines, and this evening's program, we don't have any guests because we want to hear from you. It's going to allow you to speak about your memories of Mr. Ambassador Amory. So we're going to go straight to the phone lines and take our first call for this evening.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Honorable Prime Minister, my name is Elvis Linroy Mills. They call me Dr. Elvis, the taxi driver. Mr. Amory was a very close friend of mine from 1991. I used to work with a company that he used to sign me check for. And also in 2006 to 2013, I was his driver, both he and his wife and his family. And Mr. Amory was a special person. I never see him get upset, don't care what I whisper and tell him what I try to provoke him with. I see it even when he greet people who run against him, who for him and who were against him. I never come across a person like that for a long time. And I was at the hospital, hospitalized the Saturday morning, 5 o'clock, when somebody called my phone and said, "Boy, how you doing?" I said, "Well, I just get a bag of chips, so I'm relaxing." He said, "Boy, you don't know what this happened." They said, "Mr. Amory passed away." I said, "You serious?" That was really hurting to me. knowing I was in the hospital under my pain, and I could tell you, that gentleman will be going on in history as a special person and as a leader and a togetherness man. He was a man that tried to make things work and tried to keep people in peace. He never believed in this pulling and tugging. I'm very disappointed when I learned that he passed away. And I know his wife have my sympathy, and she know me well, very good close friend of mine. And the people of Nevis, I know the Prime Minister feel this very hard. I don't have to ask no question on that. But what made me feel a little down is when I realized you still had town hall meeting after a man like Mr. Amory passed away. I'm very disappointed in that kind of behavior. But that is my piece. And I wish his family and the people of St. Nevis, and I know the Prime Minister have a good page out of his book to go forward and allow the people and make sure the people is joyful regardless of which side they're on. I can bet on that. So, Prime Minister, I wish you well. I know the Lord is on your side. A lot of people praying for you. Like, I must first give you thanks as well. The good wishes that I get. And I am out the hospital at the moment. I might be back in sometime soon, but I'm not giving up. Have a lovely evening.
Have a lovely evening as well. Thank you so much for your call. We'll take another call. Welcome to
Good night, WINNMedia. First, permit me to wish our living hero, Honorable Dr. Sir Kennedy Simmons, on his birthday. When you look at leaders, he must be recognized and give his kudos for his birthday. I know he and Mr. Amory goes a long way. So happy birthday to you, our living hero, Kennedy Simmons. Now, I've had a couple of interactions with Mr. Vance Amory, and his voice, smile, and charm is just smooth and welcoming and make you want to continue your conversation with him. And when I heard the news, it was early in the morning and I got a phone call. And they said, Bucky, did you hear that Mr. Amory died? I'm like, what? And I actually called him because, we get along, and I get no answer. I definitely, will miss him. Every time he see me, that smile, and he'll shake my hand and he'll say, Bucky, you really got it, Make sure the people inform me what is going on, We over in Nevis want to know and appreciate what you're doing, And I just want to say condolences to his family, and the country is here to support you. This is Bucky got it, and Bucky has got it. Over now.
Thank you so much, Bucky, for your contribution. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. And I'm thanking you and welcoming you to come tonight to tell us about Mr. Amory so we can pass our condolences to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and to his family. But Mr. Prime Minister, you just continue the good work what you're doing. God will bless you and you will live on. We don't know for how long, but just hold it forth. I will not keep up this thing no more because I am grieving also. God bless you, sir.
Thank you so much for your call and contribution. We'll take another caller. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening, Jacqueline.
Good evening, sir. You're live.
I'm good, and my name is Vincent Benjamin, a.k.a. Culture. Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. I want to give you thanks for really setting this program tonight to the honor and the memory of a great man that the state has lost. Mr. Vance Amory, all my life I knew him when he was going to high school, grammar school. And I never once see Mr. Amory with a screw up vexed face. He always has a smile. And I always said to myself, wonder what manner of man is this? And it's now in the late, I realized he was a special person that God put on this earth here. very special. It doesn't matter what the circumstances were, he always carried and solved the problem with a smile. He was second to Christ on this earth in my book. Hope with perfection. The only thing he was not like Christ. And he is greatly missed by the whole world. And when I heard Saturday morning that Mr. Amory passed, up to now, I cannot catch myself to be consciously awake and aware of what is going on. All I know, that we missed a great man. I missed him very much, and the state missed him. And I hope that all of us behind would take a page out of his book and be more humble, more upright, more truthful and respectable to the whole nation. God bless him. My sympathy go out to his wife, children, and his sibling, and the whole family. All the best to them. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much. One thing before I go. Mr. Prime Minister, remember the 3 Hebrew boys who were thrown in the lake, in the furnace to burn. And when the king realized a 4th man in the fire, he was surprised. But hear what the song says. They wouldn't bend, they wouldn't bow, and they wouldn't burn. All because they had faith in God. And I know you have that faith in God, and you will not bow, bend, nor burn. If you perish, you perish. Have a good night. Thank you very much, Jackie.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for participating in this evening's program. We'll take another caller. Welcome
Good night. Hello.
Hi.
Good night. My name is Yvonne Johnson. I would like to send my condolences to Mr. Vance Amory and his whole entire Nevis and his family and his wife. May God find comfort in them. And good night, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good night, good night. Bless you.
Thank you so much for your call. We'll take another caller. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hello.
Good evening. You're live.
Good evening.
Leadership Matters.
Yeah, my name is Shefton Fifield. I live in Old Road. I want to share my sympathy with the Mr. Amory family. When I was about 5, 6, 7 years, I could remember Mr. Amory coming in the house in Meads Pasture. Mr. Amory, my cousin who is Wellington Archibald, and Mr. Hugh Rollins, who was the Chief Justice. They used to come in the house as a small boy to study when they was going in high school. I could remember it good. The children went to Caveville in Barbados together, study, pass, and go their own way. And I want to say, share my sympathy. So I know Mr. Amory since I was about 6, 7 years. He was a very humble man, straightforward. I share my sympathy to him and his family, to his family. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. Unfortunately, we lost that caller, but you can still get in as this evening's program is dedicated to our viewers and listeners to allow them to pay tribute to the late His Excellency Vance Amory. And you can share stories and you can send your condolences. So please try again and hopefully you'll get through that second time. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Yes, good night, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Craig Tuckett, Director of Communications of the People's Labour Party. I'd just like to say good night to Prime Minister, Dr. Honorable Timothy Harris, and yourself, and to all the listenership. I would like to say officially on behalf of the People's Labour Party and its National Executive that we would like to render our deepest sympathies to the family and friends and loved ones of our departed statesman, the Honorable His Excellency, the Honorable Vance Amory. I myself had a great experience with him. He always used to be, as everyone has said, cheerful, very, very, very joyous in his speech, soft-spoken, always looking to give everyone an uplifting word. And when it was not only in 2015 but 2020, I will never forget how honored I was going house to house with him here in St. Kitts. And it was myself, it was Honorable His Excellency Ian Patches Liebert, Kante and Howie Richardson, and we would go house to house, and it's amazing how well received he was, even here in St. Kitts in East Pasture. He was received with respect by all sides. He was very pleasant, and persons were very happy to see him. Even those who were with Unity or those who were not supporting Unity, they always accepted him. And so it shows he was indeed a statesman. I believe St. Kitts and Nevis has lost a great human being, someone who could have possibly been the first Division Governor General, head of state for our great federation. And so with these few words, I would just like to say to one and all, indeed, we must always look to give the flowers to our people, to our leaders while they're with us. Let us not wait until they're gone. But in this case, this man, the Honorable, His Excellency, Vance Amory, deserves every accolade, and I pray that we will always remember him in our history. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined virtually by a close colleague of his ambassador, the late Ambassador Amory.
I can assure you that we are not minding anybody's business. The information I am collecting is confidential under the Statistics Act. I declared an oath of secrecy that could result in criminal penalties if I disclose any information. The same goes for persons working for the Statistics Department.
Let us all play our part. Better data for better lives.
Use this checklist to plan your purchase. Decide in advance exactly what you want and what you can afford. Ask family and friends for advice based on their experience. Gather information about the seller and the item or service you are purchasing. Review product test results and other information from consumer experts. Get advice and price quotes from several sellers. Get the seller's refund, return, and cancellation policies. Retailers sometimes do not update their point of sale system with current prices. If you think the price displayed is incorrect, inquire at the cash point before finalizing your purchase. Ask whom to contact if you have a question or problem related to the item purchased. Thoroughly read and understand any contract or legal document you are asked to sign. Make sure there are no blank spaces. Insist that any extras you are promised be put in writing. Don't buy on impulse or under pressure. A message from the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Welcome back to this special edition of Leadership Matters, in which we are paying tribute to the late Ambassador Vance Amory. So we've dedicated this show to just that. So if you want to call in and speak of your memories of him or how he has impacted your life, feel free to do so. But at this moment, we're going to be joined virtually by Everett Weber Herbert out of Nevis. He is in charge of Von Radio, so you might be familiar with him. Following which, we're going to have some tributes from members of the Ambassador Corps. So I believe we have Mr. Herbert already on the line with us.
Yes, good evening. And I would like to say a very pleasant evening to everyone. And a special thank you to Prime Minister Harris for your invitation to join the program Leadership Matters, and to the hosts Jacqueline Bryan and other participating guests. And I express my appreciation and take the opportunity to participate in this tribute our departed friend and countryman, the late Honorable Premier Vance Amory. I take this opportunity also to extend sincere condolences to the family, especially his loving wife, Mrs. Amory. The rest of the extended family, especially Meredith. And as I usually will say, all of the family, all of the friends. our prayers are with you. At this time, I'd like to make just a few remarks on my association with our late Reverend Mr. Amory. And I will also ask that you take the remarks that I'll make in that context, personal knowledge. I think I'll want to categorize my relationship with Mr. Amory in three broad areas. Before he entered politics, during his political career, and after his active political life. Some appreciation of the exaggeration on these areas, if time permits, can be done. Mr. Amory lived most of his life on a public stage. Whether he was on the cricket field, the political stage, whether he was in the church's pulpit or the rostrum, or just greeting and encouraging persons along life's road. In the political arena, I submit that while some others were constitutional scholars, Mr. Amory was a constitutional card player. He participated on the Let's Talk program that we do here at Vaughn Radio, and was one of the first guests, which we call Talk That Get Results. And indeed, his encouragement and his leadership as a leader in government and frequented the talk shows that we had, was willing and always ready to take part in debates, interviews, and so on. I will say categorically that he was very instrumental in enhancing Vaughn Radio. I interviewed Mr. Amory many times, and I'll end by saying most people categorize him as my friend. And I'll end with a little story and a light moment. After interviewing Mr. Amory for about the first time while it was premier, I got a call from overseas in station. And someone said to me, "You know, I don't know you, but I heard that you and Mr. Amory were friends. And I know Mr. Amory. And some friend Mr. Amory have in you, the way you interview him." And that suggested to me that I was fair. And finally, Mr. Amory, and this is the light moment, Mr. Amory and I shared the same defender-in-chief, a lady called Rodney Elliott. May his soul rest in peace, and again to the family, we got you.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Herbert. That was Everett Webber Herbert out of Nevis, who operates Vaughn Radio. We're now going to hear tributes from the Cuban ambassador, His Excellency David Rivero Perez, and the ambassador of the Republic of China on Taiwan, Michael Lin.
The national hero of Cuba expressed, "Death is not true when one's life work has been well accomplished." And this thought fits very well with today's tribute to the Honorable Vance Amory. The Honorable Ambassador Vance Amory was an extraordinary and multifaceted being who served in multiple capacities as an athlete, banker, educator, and politician. He dedicated his life to the service of his country. He worked tirelessly for the benefit of not only the inhabitants on his native island Nevis, but of the entire Federation. He was also an unwavering advocate of the unity of his government. I am sure that all his people will remember that. His role as an ambassador of the St. Kitts and Nevis Federation to the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America Free Trade Agreement, ALBA-TCP, will make him always recognized and remembered as a symbol of the unity, integration, and progress of our region. I did not have the opportunity to get to know him in depth. However, I am left with the joy that he was an excellent friend of Cuba, esteemed and loved by all the ambassadors who preceded me. In each of international forums that he participated representing his government, he always made clear his position in defense of my country. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla, representing my government, expressed his regret through his official Twitter account and through the letter in which he extended his most heartfelt condolence to the family, friends, people, and government of St. Kitts and Nevis. Today, I join in the feeling of these people in the tribute to the Honorable Vance Amory, who will be remembered as an exceptional human being and his legacy as an example by future generations. May his soul rest in peace.
I'm totally shocked and saddened by the passing of His Excellency Ambassador Vance Amory, the former Premier of Nevis and a very good friend of mine. On behalf of the people and the government of the Republic of China, Taiwan, I would like to extend the most sincere and deepest condolence to his loving wife Vernie and his family. Our hearts go out to the people of the Federation, especially of Nevis, who have lost their most respected statesman. Dust to dust, earth to earth. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Amen.
Were members of the Ambassador Corps. That was His Excellency David Rivero Perez, who is the Cuban ambassador, and His Excellency Michael Lin, who is the ambassador of the Republic of China on Taiwan. We'll go back to the phone lines, but just to remind you of the numbers, there's still time for you to call. This program is dedicated to your calls. The numbers to call in are 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line is 1-239-645-4500. If you want to connect with us via WhatsApp, you may do so by sending a message to 661-5683. That's 661-5683. And the numbers are listed at the bottom of your screen for your convenience. So we'll go back to the phone lines. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Caller, you're live.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Sylvester Pemberton, the mayor of Cotton Ground. I just want to extend my sympathy to Lady Amory and the entire family, and also to Miss Vernie Amory as well and her kids in New York. I want to wish them all the best, and I want the family to be strong. Mr. Amory taught me in school. Also, his first wife taught me in school, so I know him for many, many years. So I just want to wish the entire family a speedy recovery, and I wish them God richest blessing. Mr. Prime Minister, all the best, and continue to do what you're doing best. Thank you very much.
Very much, sir.
Thank you very much for your contribution to the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Prime Minister and Miss Bryan. I am Anthony Wilshire. On Honorable Vance Amory would have taught me at Gingerland High School in the 70s. And, he has been a mentor through the years. He has been a mentor to me. He always wanted to know about what happening to me and that kind of thing, my development. He referred to me, I call him teacher, and he in return called me teacher as well. And over the years, we had built up a very strong friendship. We spoke to each other daily on WhatsApp. And his contribution has been immense to this federation in different areas, finance, education, sports, as well as politics. And on behalf of my family, I just want to extend our profound condolences to his wife and his children and his siblings, and we pray that God will comfort them during this difficult time. God bless.
Thank you so much for your contribution. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Rodney Elliott, and I'm calling from Nevis. Prime Minister, good night. Stay strong. I have known Vance for all my life. He's like a father, a brother, his best friend. And it hurts because he didn't tell me goodbye. He did not say goodbye to me. And it's hard to part. I don't know how my life would be without him, because he's everything to me. There's nothing, I don't do not a thing unless I tell him I'm doing this. He will say, no, what, we sit down here. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. And nobody at all, nobody could make me do anything unless I go to him for advice. He's my best friend. When he comes from thinking, reach by the restaurant. We sit, we chat, we eat, we everything. He's everything. I'm telling you God's truth. I'm missing. Man, I speak. When Ronnie called me around 2:30 in the morning and said, are you sleeping? And I said, I'm here. He said, brace yourself. I said, what happened for you? What happened? And then she said, she blew off, and then she said, Vance gone. And I just made a lot, just quiet. I just couldn't believe. I just could not believe. But I'm trying to brace myself, because he wouldn't want nobody to cry.
Well, thank you so much for that, caller. Very touching. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you very much, Rodney.
We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Sandra Prentice. I'm calling on behalf of the Prentice family of Churchwell. I know Mr. Amory since I was a little girl, going to the St. John's Anglican Church in Church Ground, where he was a lay preacher. Mr. Amory was my head teacher at the Charlestown High School. Every time me and Mr. Amory pop into each other, he will hug me and he will say, how my Lily is doing? He mean my mom. My mom was a cleaner in his office for many years. And he will look at me and he will say, Ken John, you look everything like Ken John, you know? He's Ken John in print. I'm going to miss him. He was a statesman. I'm going to miss his smile. My condolences going out to his family. May his soul rest in eternal peace and rising glory.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the tributes.
Tips and advice to remember. Unless the product is defective or unfit for its intended purpose, businesses are not required to give you a refund on the purchased item if you find a better deal elsewhere or change your mind about wanting it. No exchange, no refund notices should not appear on signs, receipts, or communicated verbally. This rule also applies to items that are on sale. Never sign a blank contract that a salesperson says will be filled in later. Always keep your receipts, cancelled checks, warranties, estimates, contracts, and instructions. They can be useful in problem solving if you encounter any problems with goods or services. A message from the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Welcome back to this special edition of Leadership Matters, where we are paying tribute to the late His Excellency Vance Amory. We're now going to be joined by Ambassador Dr. Everson Hull, and we're happy to have him join us virtually. We're then going to hear from His Excellency Sidney Osborne, so they are both members of the Ambassador Corps as well.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, and also thank you very much, the Honourable Prime Minister, for arranging to have this session this evening. I was a few years ahead of Vance Amory at CSS. Indeed, I was his Red House captain. For me, becoming a cricketer was one of my greatest ambitions. I still recall his bowling to me from the Bath Hotel end, enhancing my own batting skills. That allowed me to make the Nevis cricket team for competing in the Leeward Islands cricket tournament. Just after his passing, my fellow OAS ambassador to Barbados called me and said he was amazed that there was so very little written about Vance's achievements in cricket. It turns out that Spartans was one of the first-rate cricket clubs in Barbados. It produced great Caribbean batsmen such as Garfield Sobers. There is a view that Vance was a strong candidate for representing Barbados. His selection would have improved the prospects for Vance's making the West Indies cricket team. What is important, however, is that instead Vance elected to return to his home base representing the Leeward Islands. This early glimpse of his profound love for the land of his birth and deep commitment to serving his people is reflected throughout his career and helps to explain the successive gains that he realized in much of what he accomplished. Although Vance never made the West Indies cricket team, he was fully engaged himself in a wide range of pursuits, all deeply committed to the land that he loved. Of course, it has been referenced several times this evening about his role with actually leading the Charlestown Secondary School and the Gingerland Secondary School. Personally, I can identify with the path that he has taken. To this day, I still consider my own teaching job at Combermere School my most satisfying work experience. His academic career took him to the Virgin Islands, as was referenced before, where he earned a bachelor's degree, and later the University of the West Indies, where he earned a master's degree. These exposures prepared him well for his establishment of the CCM movement, for which he served as a premier for 14 years, 1992 to 1996, and for 4 years, 2013 to 2017. During those 18 years, Premier Amory never forgot his place of origin and never forgot the importance of working hard for the people of Nevis. I took enormous pride whenever he came to Washington to help to arrange his town hall meetings with members of the NEV-DC Association. Several of his visits coincided with his visit to the Alexander Hamilton birthplace in Lower Manhattan, New York, when he was not able to be in New York for the annual January 11th celebration. He sometimes prepared a proclamation that I delivered on his behalf to the Assembly in recognizing Hamilton's birthplace and his significant achievements. Premier Amory served as senior minister in the newly established unity government and continued to render invaluable service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. He brought with him the critical importance of managing the fiscal affairs of state that he effectively demonstrated in Nevis with several episodes of concurrent account budget surpluses. During his tenure, senior minister and close confidant and advisor to our Honourable Prime Minister, St. Kitts and Nevis made enormous strides in reeling in the outstanding public debt, leaving it in a much stronger fiscal condition than most other CARICOM member countries in mitigating the damaging effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. It should be noted that at no point did St. Kitts and Nevis ever have to tap on the World Bank to access funds for actually maintaining the costs of funding, providing for mitigating the damaging effects of the COVID pandemic. Our Honorable Premier Vance Amory leaves a legacy of outstanding achievements. May his soul forever rest in eternal peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, His Excellency Dr. Everson Hull, who is the permanent representative of St. Kitts and Nevis to the Organization of American States. We're now going to hear from His Excellency Sidney Osborne.
I'm honored to pay tribute to my dear friend and former colleague, His Excellency Vance W. Amory, who transitioned to glory on the 2nd of April 2022. Vance Amory, as we are all aware, wore many hats. He was an extraordinary cricketer, teacher, banker, civil servant, politician, and above all, a statesman. I wish to speak about Ambassador Amory as I knew him after working closely with him in several spheres of endeavor, be it at the local, regional, or international level. Vance was a committed family man. He was a humble, honest, and dedicated servant of the people of Nevis, whom he served as parliamentary representative and premier and senior minister in the federal government until 2020, an advisor and special envoy in the office of the Prime Minister until his death. His calm, peaceful disposition was most remarkable. I cannot recall seeing him angry, flustered, or lose his cool. He brought a sense of calm and reason to any difficult situation. Vance was committed to team unity. He represented his party, the Concerned Citizens Movement, CCM, in the initial discussions and offered his support until the very end. Team unity was born out of the expressions of the people of this country to bridge the political division and come together as a unified group. The concept of team unity embodied a new approach to governance. It reflected fresh thinking and political maturity. It is both people-centric and focused. It is a concept that maintains wide appeal among the people of our federation. I dare submit that Ambassador Amory has made his mark by contributing to the legacy created by the establishment of Team Unity. I had the pleasure of serving with him on numerous occasions, representing our beloved federation at CARICOM and ALBA meetings, where he demonstrated leadership with his insightful contributions to the subject areas discussed in those fora. He was widely respected by heads of state and government, ministers, members of the diplomatic and consular corps, and regional institutions, many of whom have offered tribute to this giant of a man. As fate would have it, he performed his final tour of duty as head of the delegation at the 33rd Intercessional Meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM from the 1st to the 3rd of March in Belize. He performed with distinction, representing the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to the best of his ability. He also engaged in bilateral and other meetings with our development partners. Ambassador Amory was ever cognizant of his call to duty. I will certainly miss him. His rich legacy as a statesman would outlast his other accomplishments and fields of endeavor. His legacy as one of the founding members of Team Unity will continue to shine within our hearts for a very long time. May he rest in eternal peace and rise in glory.
And that was the St. Kitts and Nevis Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency Sidney Osborne. We are going to go back to the phone lines just to share the numbers once again. 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line is 1-239-645-4500. And those are the call-in numbers. If you would like to connect with us via WhatsApp, you can send your message to 661-5683. So we're going to go back to the phone lines. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. Okay, we're going to read some of the WhatsApp messages if we don't have any calls at the moment, as we have messages that have been coming through via WhatsApp already. This one reads, "Good night. My condolences to the entire family of Premier Vance Amory. May his soul rest in eternal peace, from Brenda Hughes and family." This one says, "Blessed evening. I want to offer my condolences to the family of Mr. Vance Amory. He was such a humble man, always had a bright smile. If he entered a dark room, his smile and humbleness would light the room. Sleep on, Mr. Amory." From Susie Liebert of Up All Night at the Ferry Terminal. This one reads, "It is evident that His Excellency Vance W. Amory was a man for all seasons. For him, it was always country above self. I will certainly miss his humility, his smile, his firm handshake, hugs, and spiritual quotes. My condolences to his family. May his soul rest in eternal peace. From the Assistant Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mrs. Patricia Iles Caesar." This one says, "I would like to say good night to my loving Prime Minister Harris. What you want..." Okay, sorry. Well, this one says, "Good night to you, Prime Minister Harris." This one reads, "Thank you, my headmaster at the Charlestown Secondary School. Every time I see him down here in St. Kitts, I always say to him, 'Hello, my headmaster,' and he smiles and hugs me." So I think that one was coming from Yvette. So clearly, Mr. Amory was well loved across the country. We'll go back to the phone lines if we have any additional calls. And as we go on, we have some additional tributes from persons to share with you, but we're going to go back to the phone lines for your calls now and say welcome to our next caller. Okay, if you don't get in, I'm going to encourage you to keep trying, as we will be spending the remainder of the program taking your calls and reading your messages. So we'll go back to the phone lines. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, host, Miss Bryan, and a pleasant good evening to the Minister.
Evening.
Mr. Harris, this is Hazel Brandy Williams, the Minister of Health and Gender Affairs in the Nevis Island Administration. It is for me a distinct honor to share in this very special Leadership Matters program this evening, and to give my tribute to the life and times of the Honorable Vance Amory. He was not only my leader, but he also was my mentor and a person who I looked up to for many, many years. And so it is very difficult for me to speak of such a person in the past tense. The passing of late Premier Amory was a shock to many, myself included. However, we pray that God will give us the strength to carry on. He will be sadly missed by many. He would have impacted the lives of many. For me personally, he would have taken an early interest in my life. From my educational upbringing to my adult years. He would have advised me on major decisions I made, including areas of study, other important decisions I had to make. I always relied on him for his direction. I know that he would have likewise touched the lives of many persons. But, and I dare say that because of his quiet personality, you would not know a lot of what he was doing, but he did a lot for so many, because he was the kind of person who didn't do a good deed for the camera. He did it because he knew it was the right thing to do or the best thing to do. Premier Amory always looked at the bigger picture of every situation. And so when others grapple at the small and insignificant matters, he took time to look at the bigger picture and to see how many persons he could impact. And for that, I am indeed grateful for the many lessons he would have taught me. He taught me how to listen to persons. Sometimes persons only need a listening ear. Financial contributions, it wasn't the only thing that persons wanted. Listen to people. He taught me how to stick with my grassroots people. What you do for persons in your community is what will last. And so this evening, I want to say how my life has transformed personally and politically because of the teachings of Vance Amory. I recall one time when we got into government in 2013, when we journeyed to St. Kitts for first official function. And I recall him taking me to a number of places, and he said to me, you can feel comfortable eating at these eateries. He was that protective of me, and he wanted me to just know what to do, how to operate, and he went as far as to show me where I can eat. He has fought a good fight. He has finished the race. He kept the faith, and now he must rest. He must rest. In closing, I want for all of us to remember and to take a page out of this gentle giant's book. He was a man of humility. He chose peace over chaos. Humility at all costs over arrogance, and empowerment over disenfranchisement. That was the Vance W. Amory who we knew, who was given to us for the past 72 years. Condolences to Vernie and his daughters and the entire family, Meredith and the others. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Hazel. Much appreciated. Your words.
Yes, that was the Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams out of Nevis. Thank you so much for taking the time out to participate in our program. We'll take another call. Do we have any additional calls? If not, we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll hear more messages, more tributes from colleagues and friends of the late Ambassador Vance Amory. And we will continue to open up the phone lines to take your calls and read your WhatsApp messages. So stay tuned.
When peace like a river attendeth my way,
Welcome back to Leadership Matters, and this evening is a special program. We're paying tribute to the late His Excellency Vance Amory. So we're going to go back to the phone line. Before we do, allow me to share with you the call-in numbers, and they are 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and the international line is 1-239-645-4500. The WhatsApp number is 661-5683. That's 661-5683 if you'd like to connect with us using that platform. And the numbers, the call-in numbers are listed at the bottom of your screen for your convenience. So we're going to go back to the phone lines now and welcome this caller to the program. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hello.
You're live. Hi, good evening.
Hi, Jacqueline. Good evening. Greetings to you and to our distinguished Prime Minister Harris, and to thank him for opening up this program this evening in tribute in honor of the departed brother, Premier Vance Amory. This is William Hodge from Sandy Point. I couldn't allow this opportunity to pass without trying to get into the program to pay my own respect and tribute to Premier Amory. St. Kitts and Nevis has lost a true statesman. In fact, I would like to qualify that by saying an elder statesman. Premier Amory autographed his work with excellence, humility, charisma, patriotism, and the list goes on. My acquaintance with Ambassador Amory grew when I came to the office of Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Education. I recall vividly in one of our earliest conversations when he shared with me, he spoke to me about my leadership as principal of the Sandy Point High School. And the things that he was saying to me was clear that he was taking note of the transformation, if I may use that word, that was at the time taking place at the Sandy Point High School. And in sharing with my colleague, Permanent Secretary in the Nevis Island Administration, Ministry of Education, P.S. Barrett, he shared similar sentiment that when Premier Amory spoke to him about certain things that he had been doing, he was just shocked to know that Premier Amory was really taking note and following this. And so, because we share the common bond as educators, because I always think that of all the various positions he held, he was still an educator at heart, because he always spoke about education. He always called several persons, including P.S. Barrett, he referred to us as teach. And so on behalf of the education fraternity on both sides of the channel, I wish to convey our heartfelt condolences to his wife, his widow, his children, and the extended family. And so I want to say to the Nevis population in particular, we share your loss, and we would pray that the greatest tribute that we can give to Premier Amory is to carry on in the legacy that he has left us with. Thank you, Jackie, for this opportunity, and to Prime Minister for this opportunity to pay my tribute to a fallen brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, P.S. Hodge.
Thank you for contributing to the program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
My name is Ernest P. Rabbit.
You're live. You can go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ernestine Taylor Claxton, and I just thought I'll offer a few words of condolences to the widow, the children, and the entire family and the people of Nevis on the passing of Honorable Vance Amory. Mr. Amory has been a staple in my life. He took me under his wings from a child of 16 up until his passing. My greatest sadness is that I didn't get to say goodbye. But Mr. Amory and I spent countless moments together. Mr. Amory has groomed me. Mr. Amory has been there for myself and my children. In sad times, he has been there, and in good times. Whenever there was a chance for my growth, personally, Mr. Amory has never turned his back. And I am so happy that I was able to have a mentor such as this. And I want tonight, Mr. Prime Minister, to commend you on the wonderful job that you have done and are still doing. And I thank you for affording me the opportunity of working this last 7 years in the electoral office of Nevis. And my words of appreciation would fail me if I didn't let you know how happy I was to work there and the growth that I accomplished. I want to say to you, Mr. Prime Minister, to keep your head up. You're doing a wonderful job. And what you have to do when you start missing Mr. Amory is to remember what he told you. Because
unfortunately, I think we lost that caller, but I want to thank you so much for sharing that with us, sharing your thoughts with us and participating in the program. I don't know if you'll have time to get back in, but I would love for you to try so you can finish your thoughts on what you were saying. We're going to take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters, you're live. Okay, at this time, we are going to hear, we have messages, tributes that were sent in via an audio file, and we're going to hear those now.
Mr. Vance Amory, because of your legacy, we're inspired to sing, thanking you for everything. From parental tutelage back in Rollins Village, you shone bright on the global stage, a success none could envisage. You showed true statesmanship, a life committed to service. In every field that you worked, like King Midas, gold with all you touched. Now you are gone, but yet we should never forget. So let us all stand erect and in song show our respect. Mr. Ambassador and Premier, we want to make it absolutely clear. You batted elegantly, scoring with fluency, pressing on to score many a victory. You were a man with dignity and class, whom few could ever surpass. A true uncrowned national hero, and that is what we want the whole world to know. As team player, you always led, with distinction pushing ahead. An educator and sportsman, a banker and a politician. Always with elegance and class, cool, calm, and with a big heart. A gentle giant, you certainly made a mark here over many a decades. The co-founder of CCM, that party you brought to eminence. Your work with Team Unity for we, to assure fair share for everybody. Now across the Caribbean we hear, leaders your valiance share, but the people of Nevis long knew you were our hero. We all lost a dear friend, one who fought for us to the very end, and we know that you now fly high like a guardian angel in the sky. To your family who now grieves, know that the entire nation is bereaved, but our hearts are filled with joy, knowing you are at peace with the Lord. While you parade the pearly gates and the departed hands you shake, the way you ran the country was renowned, so you will get 5 stars in your crown. Mr. Vance Winkworth Amory, this be our prayer from sea to sea. May you rest in your heavenly body in peace from now to eternity.
Permit me to say just a bit about our fallen Vance, because how he hugged another soul and shook a hand whenever he got a chance, because he loved people and the people loved him back, because the manner of his soul was indescribable, and that's the fact, because he was Vance. He genuflected and bowed with such grace in greeting, because he respected and cared for the company he was keeping, because his people deserved the best of what he had to give, because he had dedicated his life to the land where he so proudly chose to live, because he was Vance. He offered conversations like medicine, laughter like good food, because his personality seemed only to mirror that which was so good, because he loved people and the people loved him back, because the manner of his soul was indescribable, and that's a fact, because he was Vance. Cool, calm, and debonair, his charm could never be matched, because his demeanor paralleled a perfectly wound limited edition platinum watch, because his timing was perfect, and God's will we will wholeheartedly embrace, because God lent us the best, a man of honor who can never be replaced, and his name was Vance.
We heard just now Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. He was actually reading the lyrics to a calypso he wrote. He was contacted by calypsonians Murray and Hollywood out of Nevis to write a song for calypsonians in Nevis to render. And so he was reading the lyrics to that song. He was, and the second one is a poem by Vera Herbert. And we want to thank them both for contributing to this evening's program. So thank you, Vera Herbert and Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. We have additional messages that I'm going to read as long as we don't have any calls. Do we have any? Okay, we're going to go back to the phone line. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
This is Major Jones. You listening? Well, that's what I too would like to play something to Mr. Amory. This is a gentleman I have loved. And this is how I'm going to start my topic. Jehovah is the Father of tender mercies and the God of all comfort, who comforts in all our trials. And internationally, I have internationally known Mr. Amory as one of the most devastating batsmen of all time in games of cricket. I will miss him dearly, even sometime when I go to Nevis in the camp. He always been very hospitable to us, and he will be sadly missed by me. And may his soul rest in peace and rise in glory. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you very much, Major Jones,
for your contribution. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live. Good evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, my name is Barnabas Esdale. I'm calling from Antigua. Good night to the host and to Prime Minister Harris. Just taking this opportunity to pay my tributes to my dear friend and brother, His Excellency Ambassador Vance Winkworth Amory. My connection with Mr. Amory goes a long way back. As a boy growing up in Charlestown, Nevis, I actually attended the Charlestown Secondary School, where he taught me the subject of Latin. Later on in my educational life, I happened to have joined him on staff at the Charlestown Secondary School. I went on after that into the field of aviation, where I joined the company of Liat as an airline pilot. Mr. Amory was always very interested in my career and my endeavors. And I could recall whenever he was on any of my flights, he would actually come to the cockpit and personally greet myself and my co-pilot and always gave me a word of encouragement. He was my mentor for many years, and I must say I was deeply surprised and shocked when I got the news that Saturday morning that he had passed to the great beyond. On behalf of my brothers and sisters, my brother Moulton, my sister Grace, my brother Joseph, my sister Gloria, who he's quite familiar with, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish his dear wife and his children deepest sympathies, God's blessings, and of course, I endorse the sentiments of all the persons, all the information that was mentioned early on, my dear brother. Thank you very much, and for the privilege of joining this program from Antigua tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for participating in our program. We'll take another call. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Miss Bryan, and good evening, Prime Minister Harris.
Good evening.
Thanks so much for the opportunity to pay tribute on the passing of Ambassador Amory and the former Premier of Nevis. I want to begin to speak of my recollections of Mr. Amory with a line that started the story in one of the literature books we used as students under his teaching at the Charlestown Secondary School. At the time, he was a young teacher, recently back from the St. Kitts and Nevis Grammar School and St. Kitts. I have never forgotten the line, and whenever it comes to my mind, I always remember Mr. Amory. The line goes like this: I mind as if it were yesterday, my first sight of the man. However, my first sight of Mr. Amory was not at the Charlestown Secondary School. I guess he was probably a mid-teenager at the time. And it was in St. George, Gingerland. I think I must have been a student of the Gingerland High School at the time. And I remember vividly seeing this attractive-looking guy in white cricket uniform, walking from Market Shop, going down to Hanley's Road, swinging his cricket bat in one hand, and at times as if bowling with the ball in the other. At that time, he was living down that road with Father Blunt, an Anglican priest. Going forward, in 1992, when his party won the Nevis Island elections, and he was being sworn in as Premier of Nevis, I was a civil servant working in the Nevis Island Administration Public Relations Department. The occasion started my work under him, letting the people of Nevis know the developments that were taking place on the island under his leadership. I later worked in another position in his ministry, and so I think I can safely say that my work afforded me the chance to have direct involvement with him. My assessment of Mr. Amory is that he did not stand for mediocre performance, even if the work climate was not fully enabling. He expected you to try and conquer the odds to produce. He was somewhat soft-spoken, calm, but very firm. It is obvious that all of us know that he was very intelligent. But in expanding on that a bit, I would say he was astute, he was discerning, he was mentally sharp. Something about Mr. Amory used to amaze me. If I had to visit his office with written materials for his attention, he would remain in his chair, read upside down the material that I was holding on the opposite end of his desk, and in a flash had covered what I had come to bring to his attention. On a community level, I know I would be repeating what many have said since his passing, but I would still like to speak of what I knew of him. Mr. Amory was very humble. He treated everybody as a person, mattered not who you were, whether you're rich or poor, educated or uneducated, old or young, mattered not what company he was in. Once he could, he would grasp the opportunity to greet you, to make you feel that you are somebody, that you are significant. His official positions made no difference. I think that was one of the reasons why many loved him. And that is something I think all of us can take from his legacy. We won't all be esteemed highly in society. We won't all be well educated. We won't all be famous, but we can all be humble and have regard for our fellow men.
Well, thank you so much for that.
Thank you very, very much.
I think we might have to make that our final call. We have one more call? Okay, we can take this last call and make that our final call for this evening. Welcome to Leadership Matters. You're live.
Thank you for having me. My name is Winston Welcome. And I've known Vance Amory since I was a teenager. When I started going to Gingerland High School, never been a student of him, but was a great admirer of his cricket time. And time after time, I was able to join the St. Kitts Nevis Taekwondo Karate Club in St. Kitts, in which I elevated to as far as brown belt when I took the art over to Nevis. And Vance Amory discovered me. And it was one Culturama show. I was a guest artist on. And the demonstration I performed, a man came up on the stage, which I would have never thought who it was, Mr. Vance Amory. And he grabbed hold of me physically, and he mentioned to me all the time, I know you to be a cricketer, which I was a leg spin bowler. He said, but you're not going back to St. Kitts. You've got to establish something here in Nevis. And I asked him, where, when? He said, right now. He said, where would I get a place? He said, the Bath Hotel. So it be said, so it was done. Mr. Amory took up training, and he was an humble, disciplined man. Apart from his attributes that was mentioned, especially from Mr. Sidney Osmond, I can add, at Mr. Vance Amory's age, he would have been a true martial arts. And I'm paying my tribute to him tonight. I only know him as a very humble and disciplined man, and a go-getter and a no-nonsense. I was a great fan of Vance Amory. And last but not least, may his soul rest in peace and rise to glory. I will never forget that man. For what he did for me in that little time, it benefited me throughout the rest of the world, which I traveled the world. And thanks to him for letting me realize that something was in me that I never even realized. Thank you, Mr. Amory. I will say my condolences to his two daughters that I've known, Abiola and Abena, and his first wife, Erlene. You have my condolences, and let him rest in peace. Thank you for having me.
Participating and making a contribution to our program. Thank you. We have just a few WhatsApp messages. I'll read them quickly before we bring the program to a close. This one says, good evening. I've known the Honorable Vance Amory from a very young age in Nevis. We always shared a hug and a smile whenever we met. I was always around him, and even when he visited St. Kitts, he would make sure he was in touch with his Aunt Olivia Herbert and the family. He never called me by my correct name. Instead of saying Aslin, he would say Athlin. He met my husband, James Warner, and they clicked as if they knew each other for a long time. We will all miss him dearly. We express our deepest condolences. We express our deepest loss, on behalf of the entire Broadbelt and Brooks family, near and far. God bless his dear soul. This one reads, my condolences to the family of Vance Amory, especially his lovely wife and his children. Vance will be surely missed by all. He was the man for the people, and I will miss his daily devotion. I could remember when everyone turned me down by seeking employment for my son. Vance Amory was there for my son, and for that I am grateful. May his beautiful soul rest in eternal peace with his Maker. When we all get to heaven, what a beautiful day it will be. We have a message that was sent to us from the International Labour Organization, and they write, Dear Honorable Minister, it is with deep sadness that we have learned of the passing of His Excellency Vance Winkworth Amory, former Premier of Nevis, Senior Minister and Minister of Nevis Affairs, Labor, Social Security, and Ecclesiastical Affairs on April 2nd, 2022. Ambassador Amory was an exceptional person and a champion of the same values and principles which the ILO stands for. He will be deeply missed by all who had the pleasure of knowing him. The Directorate and staff of the ILO's Decent Work Team and Office for the Caribbean extend condolences to the government, tripartite constituents, and people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and also our deepest sympathy to the family of the late Ambassador Amory. Please accept, Honorable Minister, the assurances of my highest consideration. And this was sent by Mr. Dennis Zulu, who is the Director of the ILO Decent Work Team and Office for the Caribbean. And finally, before we have closing remarks, I have a statement sent in by the President of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, that's the St. Kitts and Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and their statement reads, the St. Kitts Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce notes the passing of former Premier of Nevis, Honorable Vance Amory. The St. Kitts and Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce notes with profound sadness the passing of the Honorable Vance Amory, former Premier of Nevis and Senior Member of Parliament in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Amory served in Nevis as Premier for 2 terms in office, between 1992 and 2006, and 2013 and 2017. The SKNCIC extends our deepest sympathies to his family, friends, and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. The Honorable Vance Amory was quiet and thoughtful, yet he enjoyed bringing people together. Using his storytelling approach to find mutual interests, he was determined and diligent in achieving his vision of bringing government, civil society, and the private sector together around our common interests. Amory wore many hats in addition to his political prowess as a sportsman in cricket, an athlete, a banker, and an educator. He also worked with successive SKNCIC Board of Directors on behalf of the people in the Federation and in the advancement of economic and social development. In recent years, Amory collaborated with the SKNCIC and CSME matters relating to the free movement of skilled workers in the region to accelerate economic activities in key sectors such as agriculture, construction, and manufacturing. Similarly, in 2021, he was assigned by the Prime Minister to lead a discussion on the employee productivity review in the public sector and sought our views on this challenge and how the private sector could be a part of the improvement process. Honorable Vance Amory was the epitome of Nevisian and Kittitian hospitality and an absolute gentleman. May his soul rest in peace. And with that, I will allow the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, to bring this program to a close. Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much for moderating an exceptional program tonight in tribute to the late Vance Amory, my friend, mentor, and advisor. I am particularly delighted that the night went so very well. In my view, it was a near perfect tribute to Vance's life of service, the quiet and outstanding dignity with which he led and he participated in public life. From all the callers and all the tributes that have been paid to him, we are able to further understand the depth of service and the outstanding service which the late His Excellency Vance Amory gave to our country, the country of St. Kitts and Nevis. As one caller put it, he lived all of his life, or most of his life, in the glare of the public spotlight, whether as a cricketer or politician or ambassador. But wherever he represented us, he did so, and he did so very well. I commend him, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I have had to work with him so closely, and for all the lessons he taught me, the guidance he provided me. And he was really a genuine friend and someone who really wanted the best. He paid detailed attention to many things. I recalled one Monday, it was, way back in the early formative years leading to Team Unity, that we spent hours at the law firm of Byron and 4th Street. It was Vance Amory, it was myself, and the Honorable Eugene Hamilton and Vincent Byron. And we were there working through draft agreements, treaties in relation to the Team Unity and how it would work. And I was, intrigued by the fact that every line Vance read. He had words on the line, and he put forward the case for a better combination of words that suited the occasion. So when I hear persons say how detailed he was in his interest in things, I know that was part of who he was. You may not be surprised to have learned that every occasion on which we had this show, he would send me a WhatsApp and he would give me a long list in terms of what were the impactful nature of that particular leadership matters. And very often he would say, I am happy for a show like this. He found it informative, of great educational benefit, allowing people to demystify certain things. For example, the working of the budget. And you recall, we did a session here with the Accountant General and so on about that journey toward budget setting, eventually leading to debate. And he commended how that was so useful, how different this program was and still remains to other call-in programs where there was a lot of perhaps hype and, passion in relation to negative things. And he commended me and asked me to continue to do shows like this one, because for him, this was what it's about if we wanted to truly develop people. You hear of it, enduring love, to see people advance, to speak to values that would motivate a country, and how people had to have pride in themselves and the things that he would do. You hear that in the tribute of Rodney, his lifelong friend, and the other ladies, the one who called from the electoral office, and several others. And I want to commend my family, Vera Herbert, in Nevis, for the poem that she penned and which was read tonight. You hear that message of a man who was a people's person in a very genuine way, echoed in the lyrics of Dr. Cameron Wilkerson and in several others. You hear that in the commendation of Shefton Fifield. You hear that from P.S. Vance, and we could go on. A steady, consistent message of Vance's friendly nature, of his positive impact upon people, because he was a special being. And yes, his innings are now all over, and yet he has left with us a towering legacy of service, of commitment to the people and to the country. He was a man always in search for solutions, never boisterous, never loud. In fact, he did not enjoy loudness in the political arena. He had a deep sense of decency. And I recall one day speaking to a pastor from Tabernacle, Pastor Augustus Shelford, and he said, you know, I always admire Vance Amory because he's always so cool and calm. And he just educates people. And he said, this is what we want. Not a boisterous parliament full of rancor, but just speak to the people. So for all those unique qualities that he had, I want to commend them to the country. Vance took time always, whenever he traveled in service of the country, to update me almost hour by hour on what was happening. I look at my WhatsApp when he visited and led the delegation eventually in Belize, and some of the things he had said to me, his own reflection and team unity, his own reflections on the heads of government meeting, and where he think I could assist in making them more productive. Again, this was the man, always searching for the better way of doing things. And he exemplified that in the political space, a humility, consistency in terms of his excellence of service, and committed to the things that he believed. He was a strong advocate of team unity. He believed in it, and he did all he could to strengthen it. He understood that it was never a perfect arrangement, but for him, it remains the best instrument for the advancement of the quality of life for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And he never wavered in the promotion of it, in support of it, while quietly he would engage in ways in which we can improve upon it. For that I will always be eternally grateful to him, for his support, for his counsel, and for all that he did to help me to elevate my own leadership skills and the quality of service I would give to the people of Nevis and to the people of St. Kitts. So I thank God for his life, and I thank his family for lending him in continuing service after he had withdrawn from the hustle and bustle of the party politics in Nevis, to stay on with me in government to the end of the first term, and then to make himself available for further service. I was able to easily accept his contribution given the wide expanse of his knowledge and his involvement in public service. I have had no regret in all of my relations, in all of my conversations, in all of the various opportunities in which he was engaged in service to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and in service to the office of the Prime Minister. Vance has been an extraordinary special person, and I thank God for granting him to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I pray that his soul will rest in eternal peace. And I thank his wife for her loving support, and of course the rest of the family for encouraging him in the quality of service, outstanding quality of service he has rendered. Finally, we have had a tremendous number of calls and interventions, and I want to thank those persons. We had many first-time callers to this program, and I'm happy about that, and I hope for future edition you will tune in and render support and advice to the continuing build-out of the Leadership Matters program. To God I give glory, and I thank him and ask for his continuing protection and blessing, and the good people of St. Kitts and Nevis and our federation as a whole. Thank you again, Jackie, for moderating.
And thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister, for dedicating this program to the late His Excellency Vance Amory, who I met almost 20 years ago. It's hard to believe, when I first began working as a journalist. As a journalist, I think it must be natural that journalists and politicians just always seem to clash. So there were many times when Mr. Amory and myself knocked heads, but never did it interfere with how professional he was, and never could I say that he was ever rude or disrespectful. That's just how he was, and we've always gotten along, and I really appreciate all the people who took the time to call in and share their thoughts on Ambassador Amory and how he touched their lives. He seemed to have helped so many people, and he really never came across as arrogant. He always seemed very humble. I always used to tell him how much I loved his voice. I remember he told me how much he was happy that I was now hosting the program, and he would also send me messages, no matter how late Leadership Matters finished. Sometimes I would say, why are you still awake? But he really was always in tune with the program, and he would share his thoughts, and I will miss getting his WhatsApp messages at the end of the program. So this program, I think, was a particularly difficult one for me. I have one final WhatsApp message that came in. It's a special program, so in closing, I will read that. It says, I would like to commend the Prime Minister for his thoughtfulness in dedicating this program to a true stalwart, Ambassador Vance Amory. I pray that the country's leaders can take a page out of his book. He was a principled man, humble, caring, and inspirational. He was a giant of an individual. May God strengthen his wife, children, and family, and may his life be an example that all of us will emulate. So thank you once again for making this program what it was, and I hope it really brings comfort and has touched his family who are bereaved at this time, and I would like to offer them my deepest condolences. So my name is Jacqueline Bryan. I was your host this evening. Take care until next time.
There it, folks. A special edition of the Leadership Matters here on WIN FM 9.9 in honor of the late Honorable Vance Amory. We'll head back to our regular programming.
We're different. We're